Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and let's get started. All right, I know you're a fan of winning if you listen to this podcast, but if you're, in addition to that, a big fan of horses and you love them like I do, you're going to really enjoy this session because today we've got an incredible treat. We've got Guinness McFadden Jr., and actually, Guinness has the horse and the farm that it's where the Kentucky Derby winner from last year came from. And what was unique about it, the second highest odds of any Kentucky Derby winner, 65 to 1. And I think he can correct me on this, but I think maybe the only homegrown and local farm that produced a Kentucky Derby winner. Most of the time, these horses come from all over, but it had a local hero for the Kentucky Derby. So, it's an amazingly big deal. And Guinness got hooked on racing in 1996 when his aunt and uncle took him to Belmont Park. And he's always a huge sports fan. In fact, he's actually worked out at North Star Ski Resort when he was growing up. And I know he's a big skier because that's where I met him out in Aspen. But he found where his love was racing and handicapping. And those of y'all that have been to horse races, and it can be very addictive and very exciting. So he lives in Lexington with his wife Lisa, his daughter Olivia, son Trip, and has a really wonderful life he's put together for himself, and running Blackwood Stables there on 350 acres, and showed me a picture of his lovely daughter there with playing. Not every young girl has a Kentucky Derby winner to play with when she comes home from school. But I don't know if she rides him. But anyway, thanks so much, Guinness, for taking the time out. And so welcome.
Thank you, Larry. It's happy to be here.
Yeah. And what, let's do this. Tell everybody what, your takeaway from that experience. And, maybe we can get into that one and some other, we can start with that one, but other things that incredible achievements you've had a chance to accomplish during your life and how you went about doing that. But what was that experience about, winning the Kentucky Derby?
Well, I think first and foremost, it was a really humbling experience. It's not something everybody gets to do, but it is something that everybody in the horse industry on some level is trying to do. And I don't want to say we backed into it because we're trying to raise good horses, but everything just fell into place, and we got really, really, really lucky. Country House, was a homebred of my uncle's who unfortunately passed. And then it was up to my aunt and I to continue rolling. So, yeah, it was, I think humbling is the best word that
So
I would
these
use to describe it.
these horses run as 2 year olds, and your uncle passed in October of 2018, and the race was like 6 months later, like in May of 2019, right? So he passed 6 months earlier. So what a legacy he left you, huh?
Yeah, he actually made his Country House made his first start a few days before my uncle passed. So he was around when he raced, but I don't know if he truly could have enjoyed it. But yeah, he had raced one time while he was alive, and then it all happened.
What being around a horse of that caliber and going through that experience, how have you noticed that's made a difference in how you go about things, or has it?
It really hasn't. It hasn't changed how I go about things. I think expectations were never that high to begin with, and I don't expect that to ever happen again. It's worth trying to do, but expectations really haven't changed. I'm just trying to get another good horse on some level, and yeah, hopefully we get another country house. That would be pretty great.
Well, Guinness, I got to remind you of when Bubba Watson won the Masters. They said to him, is this a childhood dream? And of course, he was out of his mind. He had just won it, and
Yeah,
he said, the great thing about Bubba is he's so honest. That's also the bad thing about him sometimes. But anyway, he was just smiling as big as he could smile. He said, "No, I never could dream this big." But
yeah.
I'd like to remind you that he came back and won it again. So don't rule yourself out, man. Uh, the
Well, I think that's real similar for me because I never would have. That wasn't. I like. It's always nice to set goals that you think may be a little bit out of reach, but I mean, you know, Sheikh Mohammed, the ruler of Dubai, has been trying to win that race for 40 years, and he's got billions and billions of dollars invested and hadn't been able to do it. So I wasn't naive enough to think that I would be able to.
well, share with people a little bit more of the context. When you go to the museum, I encourage everybody to go to that museum. They have their usually museum is boring, but if you go to the Thoroughbred Racing Museum, they have it at Churchill Downs. It's just mind-blowingly interesting and fascinating. And one of the things they have there is all of the zillions of thoroughbreds that are born, foaled every year, and then it went through the elimination process of how that comes down to one, like 20, on an average, 22 of them will race in the Kentucky Derby, then one will win. But it showed how many, I don't know if it was a million or hundreds of thousands, but the odds are just staggering, aren't they?
Yeah, I'm not sure. The full crop changes every year, but I think you can kind of come somewhere around 25,000, and then through attrition you're left with 20 starters usually for the Derby. So yeah, you get 25,000 down to 20, and then from there you're down to one. So, and it's not a. I mean, there's a lot of really fantastic horses that have never made it into the Kentucky Derby starting gate for a myriad of reasons, whether it's injury or timing or you know whatever it may be. It's not the best horse that wins the race. It's the best horse on the first Saturday in May, and that is the hardest part: is getting your horse, regardless of the trainer, getting your horse the best it can be on that one day of the year. It's incredibly difficult, and luck. Anybody who tells you that luck doesn't play a huge role in it is kidding themselves.
Well, one thing is how fragile they are, how young they are, and if just like all youngsters are very fragile. They have it a long way from developing. Like show jumpers, you start training them heavier when you're 5 or something. For those bones to solidify and everything. But and bugs can come in, and anything can go wrong at any time. And but you can. It's kind of the way life is in the sense that doing great things is always going to be a long shot, and that's no reason not to go for it. But when you do, you've got to make a serious effort. And it's like you've told me before, you go about your business in a serious first class way where you can take and stack those odds as much as you can in favor of the hitting the moon, making that once in a lifetime thing happen. But if you cut corners, it's not going to happen. And where did you learn that lesson early on, and how did you get that in your head in the horse racing world?
So when I first moved to Kentucky, I started working at Three Chimneys, and that was just how everybody operated there. It was always, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And I think, you know, that's how things have been for me for a long time, just in general in life, is I think the attitude. But I really saw it firsthand there, because there's any number of ways you could cut corners raising horses, but you're just better off not doing it. And so I saw it early on at Three Chimneys. Um, Reputation is a huge deal in the horse industry. That was always really important to me. And part of it is doing the right thing when nobody's watching. So, yeah, I think it started there. Robert Clay, the owner of Three Chimneys, set the tone. And, no one ever said it like this, but I felt like I was expected to follow and not let him down.
Yeah. And I ask you, the Derby experience is like if they give you a green jacket like they do at the Masters, but you said, unfortunately, no.
No, they give you a pretty cool trophy though, so I think I'll take the trophy over the green jacket.
Yeah. And
I,
where's,
I get to keep the trophy. You win the Masters, you got to leave. You get to wear your jacket for that year, but then you got to leave it in the clubhouse. So,
yeah.
uh,
But
we get to keep the trophy.
yeah, where do you have the trophy on display?
I have it at my house.
Uh huh. Yeah, and one thing about taking things serious, if you in the horse racing business, you got lots of people that invest that they'll invest in the horses, you'll train for them, and for them, like you say, there's a lot of high level people putting a lot of high dollars into this, and they're not going to. There's just no secrets. They're not going to continue to support you at the top. Most of these people can kind of smell anything that's if people are trying to take shortcuts, but they can also tell if they're dealing with a quality individual. And as a result, you pretty I'm imagining your world. You and I hadn't had a chance to talk about it, but I imagine in your world you've had the opportunity to develop quite a network of real high achievers that kind of working in that circle kind of informs you and helps you stay sharp and notice things that you can improve on. Talk about operating with in a business where you have the people with unlimited wealth like the Arabians and CEOs and entrepreneurs, hedge fund guys. What's it like to operate in that world?
Well, I've been really fortunate. My position at Three Chimneys initially, when I was director of sales, we sold horses commercially at public auction, and a lot of my job was to just sit there and watch people look at horses. I got to meet all kinds of different people who would come through the consignment and look at horses, and yeah, every opportunity I got, I would always like to, ask people questions. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? How did you do it this way? Um, yeah, and it's also really interesting to see just how different everybody's background was. I don't. You mentioned hedge fund. I don't think I had one client that was a hedge fund person. It was the randomest things from, bookstore people to plastic clips on a bread roll to it just the most interesting people you're ever going to meet are in the thoroughbred world. It's just the largest collection of characters I've ever come across. Um, Playing flat out, it's a really interesting world, and I think yeah, it's just a wonderful collection of characters.
What's unique about, tell people what's unique about Blackwood Stables and the fact that Country House came out of a Kentucky uh, uh, horse farm and training operation.
Well, he was actually born at Three Chimneys, which is about, oh, I don't know, half a mile from where Blackwood is, where we actually share a property line. Um, so he was he was raised his entire life from when he was born at Three Chimneys to when he went to Lane's End, which is I shared a different property line with, and then he came to Blackwood. So he was, within a square mile pretty much his whole life, or two square miles his whole life. He did some time in South Carolina before joining Bill Mott's string. But I think what makes us unique is it's more of there's a few facilities like ours in the United States. Fair Hill would be closest. We're pretty much a private training center, and I think that's what makes us unique is we only do training. Most farms in Kentucky are stallion farms, broodmares, stallions, yearlings, that kind of thing, and they're preparing horses for either public auction or to come to places like ours where we, start and pre-train them. So that's kind of what makes us unique from that standpoint. There's one or two other operations in central Kentucky like us, but the majority of farms that do what we do would be in South Carolina or Florida.
What can you learn? Are there any lessons? Any kind of insights in training horses that you think would people could learn from in terms of training new people for their organization for peak performance? I remember when I was riding and competing and show jumping, it was like when you get, you know what? I wasn't the trainer, I just did what they told me. I was the dummy on the horseback I just tried to keep from screwing things up. The trainer told me and the horse what to do. So it wasn't me, but it was like the goals always seemed to be make one specific step forward every day, and then once the horse got it one time, it's like straight to the barn. That's it. Get it in his mind, let him go. Quit while he's got that positive new move in his mind. And so how do you go about bringing along a young horse?
Well, most of it is going to be the mental aspect early on, making them comfortable, right? Because we're predators. So I think in order for them to not look at us as predators, you have to get them mentally comfortable with everything they're doing. And then you're just trying to build from there. We're just trying not to screw it up, really. You're just trying not to give the horse a bad experience, and you're trying to just do a little bit more each day. And sometimes that's just going for a trail ride around the farm. Later on in the year, obviously, you get a lot of racetrack time, but keeping things new and different, doing the same thing all the time, every day, I don't think is beneficial for anybody. You listen to, Arnold Schwarzenegger talk about lifting weights. It was always something different. He's always trying to do something to confuse the muscle. And I think we're trying to do that with horses. Keep it new and interesting. Because, going around in a circle, making left turns all the time can get boring. And we're dealing with teenagers, So we're constantly trying to build and let them, let them grow on their own and not do anything to get in their way. You're always trying to help them move forward.
Okay, well, that's some really great insight. Well, Guinness, I can't thank you enough. This has really been fun and fascinating, getting exposed to the behind the scenes of what goes on before and after being a Kentucky Derby winner. And your humility shines through, and you've given us a lot to think about, and I'm really looking forward to the next time we can do this, because I really feel like this may have happened one time and may be a dream come true, but I get the idea you're doing everything in your power to give yourself the best possible chance to do it again and again, and I'm not going to be surprised if it does happen going forward.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Million Dollar Mastermind with me, Larry Weidel. If I've helped you in any way, leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. For more information like this, listen to our other Million Dollar Mastermind episodes and check out my Weidel Academy YouTube channel and visit us on WeidelOnWinning.com. I'm the Million Dollar Mastermind, and until next time, go, go, go.